Hi, and welcome to Art Today. I am Rachel Neese, and today we're going to do something that's a little opposite of what my shirt says. We're not blowing anything up. We're going to get very zen with Zentangles. So thanks to one of my wonderful coworkers who teaches Art 1 and Drawing 1, as well as like AP, she does everything around here. Esther McNeilage, she does this project all the time with her students, and she has let me borrow some things so that I can bring it to you guys. And they are called Zentangles. Now, what a Zentangle is it's really just kind of doodling and zoning out and kind of becoming calm. This is real good when kids are hitting art block. It's also just a real good practice for lines and shapes and shading, which is technically value in all our fancy art terms. So we love our art terms around here. These are two examples that I did yesterday. So we were sitting in some meetings yesterday, and I am one of those teachers that as soon as someone else is at the front of the room, I turn into the antsy kid that cannot sit still, and I bounce around. I have to stand up. That's not what I want to be doing in the middle of a meeting. I am listening, but these really helped out. I took some just regular office flashcards and I cut them in half. So I had all these little like square type pieces of paper, and I brought them with me with my favorite pen to the meetings, and I was able to sit there and do my Zentangles and listen and not be the bouncy teacher, which was really nice for once. So I'm going to give you an overview of what supplies that you might need. There's so many ways to do this. Once you get the hang of it, you can do this anytime that you need to just kind of chill out or refresh your creative juices, or even just practice some things. So the first thing you're going to need obviously is some sort of paper. I'm just going to use a few of those little cubes that I cut up yesterday. You can do this on a much bigger scale if you want to. The next thing is you're going to need something to draw with. Now, if you're starting out or you don't have much, you can use a regular pencil. Those work fine. You can use a regular pen if you want. Some people like to grab highlighters or markers to add like little pops of color. So those are an option. What Miss McNeilage really likes to use with her kids are these micron pens, and you can get them in all sorts of like fine tip all the way to these kind of like brush tips. And I'll show you the difference between this one and the one that I prefer. But I've always used micron pens for this and smaller drawings, also to outline watercolors that I do. And I've always loved them, die hard on that. It's always exciting to hand a student who needs a more professional pen and be like, look what I have for you. But at a conference a couple years ago, we got a little goodie bag, and I got this Winsor & Newton 0.8 fine liner water resistant pen. And it has been my favorite pen. I'm going to have to find these and use them again. So really it's just going to depend on what your personal preference is. This just happens to be mine at this point. So there's also a lot of books out there that you can get. Miss McNeilage has this one that is called The Joy of Zentangles. And she uses it a lot, especially when the kids are like, oh God, I've got to do something and I need help. They can open it up, look at different examples of things to draw, and it walks you step by step how to draw these different designs. So if you can't think of one off the top of your head, these are great foolproof ways to get ideas. It's also a way to really elevate what you're already doing. This is another one. It is Zentangle number 1, the basics, and it's a workbook edition. There's multiple workbooks in this series, and as you can tell, they definitely like the micron pens as well. They also use a pencil, and I think there are some people that do the Zentangles with pencils and they'll start adding shading, so you might need a smudging stick if you want to go that route. So with the workbook, it gives different examples. People are doing these on clothing. You can also start off with a friend and you start lines and then switch papers. That's always really fun to do with students. Like set a timer and have one student start, and then like every 5 minutes have them switch papers. You can end up with some really cool designs like that. So I'm probably going to keep this open just to remind myself that there's other shapes that I can do, because I tend to do a lot of swirls and I might not always need to do all the swirls. So I'm going to leave that open and show you how we get started with the students. So my first little one, it is tiny. So the first thing that we would do, we'd probably start them off with a pencil, but that tends to be light. So I am going to go to my Winsor & Newton pen. Is it Newton or Newton? Okay, so the first thing that they want to do on their paper is actually put 4 dots. So you're kind of making a dot to dot square. So once they have that, you need to talk about lines. We don't want a regular straight line. We can all draw that. If you have kids that really freak out and need a ruler, you can let them have a ruler, but try to encourage them to do other types of lines that kind of let them relax a little bit. The whole point of this is to relax, zen out. We're trying to come back to our creativity. So the first thing that you do after you talk about the lines, kids choose 2 different lines that are not straight lines. So they could be zigzags, loop-de-loops, swirls. And I'm just going to do a couple of swirls here. And you're doing from one diagonally, from one end to the other. And then I'll use a zigzag, because the kids really like to say, especially younger kids, they like to say zigzag. It tickles their mouth. So you can do a tight zigzag, you can do a looser one, and I'm just going diagonally from one side to the other. Now this will start coming together. We are going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll start doing more. So start thinking about different patterns that you might want to use. Think checkerboards, baskets. Really, you can look around you. If you have shoes on right now, look at the bottom of your shoes. That's always a great place for pattern and texture. So start getting some ideas together, and when we get back, hopefully you will be ready to maybe do an example with me at home. So I will be right back.
I'm Ashley Rich, District Attorney. Today I want to talk to you about a program that we at the District Attorney's Office has with the Mobile County Public School Systems to help with the bullying issues that are going on in today's world because of social media and because our young people think it's okay to bully others. It's not okay to bully others. Bullying is repeated verbal and physical abuse, ongoing verbal and physical abuse. We at the Mobile County District Attorney's Office want to help the community, we want to help the public school system, and we want to stop bullying within our community. It's really, really important that we do so. And parents need to be responsible if their child is either being bullied or if their child is a bully. Parents need to be involved to stop the bullying or to help the child if they are being bullied. And we at the Mobile County District Attorney's Office and the Mobile County Public School System are also here to help.
Hi, I'm Renee Phillips, Director of Communication for Mobile County Public Schools and your host of Homeroom. I invite you to join us as we learn about the great things happening in our schools across the county. On Homeroom, you get to meet students and educators who are in our schools every day doing wonderful things. Join us as we take an in-depth look at their stories, issues, people, and policies of the Mobile County Public Schools. That's Homeroom. You can find it weekly right here on the MCPSS TV network.
Hi, and welcome back to Art Today. I'm Rachel Neese. I do want to remind you that today we're working on Zentangles and getting very calm and kind of getting back to the basics. But art is fun and meant to be messy at times, so please check out our other videos on YouTube at MCPSS TV and join me for a lot of other different art techniques. So we're going to get back into our Zentangle. We have drawn our 4 dots and then talked about lines. We've done 2 lines that are not straight lines. I've got a loop-de-loop and a zigzag. You can do whatever kind, wavy lines, swirly lines, little lines, thick lines, however you want. So once you have those 2, we need to kind of like square it off and give it a frame so that we're within our areas. So the big thing a lot of kids want to do is do a straight line, and that is fine. I personally like to make mine just a little less straight, and I'll show you why I prefer to do that in a second. So I'm just connecting dot to dot, making a circle. If I wanted to, I could do straight lines, but I'm not. And as you can see, I've got pretty thin lines. This would be a point where if you went out and got all the fancy pens, you can use a thicker pen. I've just got the 1 pen here, and I'm going to thicken my lines up in just a few places, and it's very subtly. So I will draw a second line going over and under right next to the first line, and then where I have empty space, I'm going to fill that in and try to make it where it looks pretty seamless. And this gives me different line weights so that it kind of draws the eye around. It also gives it what I feel like more of a frame feel. And I just think they're cool. So I'm going to do that all the way around. And then we're going to get into filling in the center. So this would be a good point where if you're having kids or you're doing this with friends, this would be a good part once you have this finished to go ahead and switch papers so that the next person is looking at this brand new and they're going to put their own touch and personality into the art. So as you can see, like I haven't done this line yet, and these 3, they have more weight. It also makes it tend to look a little bit more 3D if you're getting into that. I've never personally been good at making things look 3D. I have to actually make the 3D stuff, which probably explains why I teach ceramics and not drawing. But all art is fun. Just some of us have better skills at the ones we practice. And I practiced sculpture more. Okay, so now that I have my thicker lines, I'm going to pick an area, and you can start in the smaller areas to get started, or you can go out. So I'm just going to pick a smaller area, and I'm going to pick a design. So let's see. I like spiders. I'm going to make a little spider web in here. So I'm just going to make straight lines, start off with an X, then make the X into a star. And then I can put little, it's almost like U shapes on the inside of these spider webs. And this is going to be my first doodle in my Zen. Now, if I mess up, could I possibly like color it in where I messed up? Or could I make the line thicker or change up my line? Most definitely. So that's my first little one. Now I want to kind of think about what about some other areas that I might like to do. Another real easy one would be this like beaded line. So I think I'm going to do that on this side of the zigzag. I'm just going to put little dots all around the line that I already made. And it's really, you don't really think about it. Just kind of doodle if you're on the phone or listening to a Zoom call and you're trying to pay attention to that and you're just letting your hand and your pen go. You can come up with some pretty cool things when you're not really paying attention to the art and you're paying more attention to what someone else is saying. You could also put on some music that makes you feel calm. So I personally like weird things like Viking chanting and classical music from like Bridgerton, where my husband would like Mozart. So whatever music you want to kind of calm down, maybe de-stress at the end of the day would be real good for this. Okay, so I've got that line. Now the goal is to just fill up the page. So I do want these spaces inside filled up, and they're little, so I'm just gonna put little dots in there. And they don't have to be in a particular pattern unless you prefer them to be. All right, so, and I'm even going to block this off even more. I'm gonna draw a straight line, and I'm gonna go back to the early 2000s when I used to draw on my shoes and just make a checkered board. And pick up, there we go. I think every pair of shoes I had in the early 2000s had drawing on them, and they all definitely had this pattern on them. So don't draw on your shoes now. They're more expensive, they're important. Draw on the paper. Okay, so once I kind of do this checkerboard, the best thing to do is do one line. So every other square you are going to block in. And if you wanted to add color, you could do so now or later. When you go to the next line, you're gonna go to the first white square and color the one above that. Now, sometimes you might mess up and you might need to make the line bigger and just color in. Best example, it's real hard to see, but if you can tell here, I messed up and I ended up making my checkerboard a little different because I had a oopsie. So just go with the mistakes. Sometimes the best things to happen in art is to make a mistake and figure out how to fix it. It's all about problem solving and letting your brain do what it's meant to do and figure out how to fix those things and make mistakes into beautiful oopses. And I believe there's actually a few books for younger kids if you ever want to talk about making oopses in art. There's a wonderful series and it talks about painting and drawing and all kinds of things and making mistakes and making them work for you and having confidence in your art. So definitely do a Google search. You can find those real quick. I'm gonna take a break. I'm gonna fill in a little bit more of this and we will be back in just a little while.
Mobile County Public Schools, the place that has it all. We have 90 schools that include rural, urban, and suburban schools of various sizes. We are also home to Alabama's first public school. We welcome you to come join our winning team. Our district is led by the 2020 Superintendent of the Year, Mr. Cresel D. Threadgill. Our teachers are leaders in their profession who are afforded numerous professional development opportunities. Our principals are collaborators and encouragers. Our schools are leading in innovation and instruction. And most importantly, our students who are learning today, leading tomorrow, are simply the best. If you want to live in a historically rich city near beautiful beaches with superb southern hospitality, we invite you to come teach with the best. Team MCP SS.
Hey, and welcome back to Art Today. I'm Rachel Neese, and as a reminder, today we're working on Zentangles. We're trying to get real calm, back into the creative flow, trying to just let the patterns and lines and shapes happen. So I went ahead and I finished the one I was working on before we went on break, and it ended up looking like this one. And that was with the Winsor & Newton pen. I'm gonna switch over and use the Micron, and this one's a 005, so it's pretty tiny. You can use bigger ones if you want to. And I'm going to do one that looks closer to this little cupcake. So if you are not a complete abstract, trust the process person and you need something a little bit more substantial to get you started with, you'll know where to start. And then we can also look and see how the two pens look compared to each other. So I've already done a cupcake. I think another really simple, recognizable design would be like a popsicle. So, and those, ooh, this one is really tiny. She told me it was tiny, but whew. Okay, we're gonna get some interesting lines. I'm going to make a big old U, and then I'm going to give it a soft line at the bottom so it's a little curved. That could even be a little ghost, but then I'm gonna put another little long U on it, and I've got a simple popsicle, right? So at this point, I can start adding my design. If I wanted to design inside my popsicle first, I can do that. So let's see, popsicles normally have some kind of shine on them. I'm gonna give it a shine, and I'll do that one pattern and maybe do another design on the other side. Now your Zentangles do not have to start out super small if you do not want them to. So I'm gonna make this one pretty big, and I'm gonna bring in some color so you can see the difference. And as you can tell, this pen is a lot thinner. So it does make a difference what pen you use, but also what type of fine tip it has is going to make a difference. So let's see, we can do little bubbles in here. Ooh, this one's nice. I should have used this on the last one. It's really nice and tiny. You're getting some good detail in here. And with the Micron pens, I don't feel like I always push a lot harder. I was the kid in school that had that big old callus on their hand from pushing so hard and holding my pen so hard. And that might have been why I didn't get into drawing in 2D art the same way I did the 3D art when I was younger. But with the Micron pens, you do not want to push as hard as you would with another pen type. Now I'm just gonna go straight to the Sharpie. We get these every year. Apparently people think teachers need a million Sharpies, and they might be right. I'm always using Sharpies. I'm also always using highlighters. Can never have enough Sharpies. I'm just gonna fill in my lines like every other one, similar to how we did the checker. And this is gonna give a pop of color. If you don't have a super steady hand, go slow. I could never be a tattoo artist. I am way too shaky for that. This is also something I think if you're looking at getting into a career with a steady hand, this might be, Zentangles might be your way of practicing keeping your hands steady as you are moving and being creative. So I'm just filling in these lines again with the highlighter, add a pop of color. Now I can come back if I want to, like once I've done more, if I want to put more designs in, that would be fine. It's not finished until you say it's finished. And then even after that, art is never actually finished. It is merely abandoned. I want to say, who said that? Not Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci. I believe he said art is never fully finished. It is merely abandoned. I could be wrong on who said that, but A famous artist said it, and it really is true. So I'm going to abandon the micron real quick because it is so thin and I want some thicker lines. So on the outside, I am going to show you how I did that cupcake one because that one was real simple. I'm just going to take 2 lines on either side and arch them out. I'm then going to go from the same point I started on and just arch those out even more. If a little pin gets on the table, it is no big deal, guys. So just keep going from the same point. Eventually your lines will start to intersect. And I've got to be careful because I have the popsicle stick right there. And you can stop the lines. I believe that's what I did when they crossed. But I'm just going to keep going this time and see what happens. So again, if you make mistakes, it is okay. So I've got kind of like a bottom background there. I'm going to keep filling it in. If I don't finish this in one setting, maybe I take it to my next meeting, or I take it and sit in front of the TV tonight and doodle while we're watching something. It is whenever, however you want to do it. I'm just giving little flowers right there. Practice, and again, if you mess up, just try to fix it before you throw paper away. You don't want to waste paper. It's bad for the environment. We love our trees. But on top of that, sometimes our best art comes from our biggest mistakes, or you at least learn from it. So at the very least, you're learning. As I'm talking, I'm not really thinking anymore. I'm just drawing lines, and will give me like 10 seconds and see what happens. So lines, just trying not to think about anything but what line I am making. I have no idea what I'm doing here, guys. Just making lines. Make shapes. And you can see, no matter how quick or how slow I make it, I can always do some pretty cool Zentangles. So I'm going to stop there. I can keep going and really just make this thing pop, do all kinds of different designs. I can go back in. This is all about how you want to do it. So have fun, zone out, find your Zen, enjoy your Zentangles, and join us again to make some art. Thank you.